If you're interested in starting a podcast, visit the contact page at njcriminalpodcast.com and send Meg a message. She'd love to discuss your legal podcast, and her producer has experience with podcast launches for businesses of all types. Always a fun conversation. Don't hesitate to reach out and see if podcasting is a good fit for you.
You know, I'm not fully involved with where the money goes, but I know that there are statutory mandates of where the money needs to go, and one of them being involved in law enforcement to help, detect cannabis use or cannabis intoxication or impairment. So, the money is definitely going to go back into the impact zones. This is a social justice and equity, type of situation that we're in. The criminalization of cannabis is a social justice issue, and we're here as a commission to rectify that. We really stand on two pillars of equity and safety. We want to have an equitable market. We want to allow people that have been affected by the criminalization of marijuana to be able to get a license or to be able to be involved in ancillary businesses. And we also want to make sure this market's safe. We want to make sure minors aren't using cannabis. We want to make sure, everybody knows what they're getting when they get a product, that it's lab tested, that there's nothing that's going to harm you when you get these types of products.
Welcome back to New Jersey Criminal Podcast. Continuing our cannabis series, here with us today is Chief Counsel for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, Christoper Riggs. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. We enjoy, at the commission, we enjoy engaging with the public and making sure the public has all the information they need to, know what's going on in the cannabis space in New Jersey.
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to join us, and let's just jump right in. You are Chief Counsel for the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and the commission that was created as part of the CREMA oversees all cannabis-related things in New Jersey, including licensing, cultivation, processing, sales, laws, profits, taxes, consumption, etc. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. We do a lot. My office is comprised of myself. I have a deputy counsel. I have a regulatory officer, and I also have an attorney assistant. But, behind the scenes, we're working on regulations to modify our medical regulations to make sure patients are prioritized. And we're also working to make sure that the adult use program market and everything else rolls out smoothly.
So as Chief Counsel, what is your role? Do you oversee all things legal related to cannabis as it develops in the state of New Jersey?
Yeah, that's basically it. We're working every day to answer questions related to our regulations from applicants, from stakeholders, from other attorneys that have these questions that are involved. This is going to probably come out a lot during our conversation here, but a lot of the stuff goes back up on our website. We have a really good website that our Director of Communications, Tony M. Blake, has put together where, I work with her on FAQs. I work with her to make sure we're giving people the right information that is compliant with our regulations so folks know what to do when they're applying to become a cannabis business.
And we've discussed that on this show previously. The website is very user-friendly. I have encouraged in the past, and I continue to encourage my listeners to check out the Cannabis Regulatory Commission's website, which is part of nj.gov. So currently, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but currently applications are being accepted for 3 classes of licenses: cultivator, Class 1, Class 2, manufacturer, and Class 5 retailers, and then the testing laboratories. Is that correct?
Yep, you have all 4 of them. The testing laboratories technically aren't a cannabis business, so they're not classified as Class 1 through Class 6 as the other licenses are. But yeah, we're accepting the cultivation, which is the big, canopy where, they go from seed to plant, and then they harvest the plant, and then we're licensing manufacturers, which are the processors. They process things such as the edibles that are available, mints, lozenges, gummies, vape cartridges, and then you also have the retail space where consumers and patients can go and purchase these products.
Okay. And I'm told, and I read that in the process or the establishment of instructions to release the other 3 classes. So that would be Class 3 wholesalers, distributors, and delivery. Tell me where we are in the timeline to get that second group, wholesalers, distributors, and delivery, those applications made available?
We're actually really in a good place on the timeline with that. We have published for readoption the rules that were currently effective upon filing in accordance with the CREAM Act. We have published a new set of rules that are ready for readoption that contains those additional classes of licenses. So you'll have your Class 3s, your Class 4s, and your Class 6 delivery license with the regulations available for public comment right now. So folks can visit our website. They can give us public feedback. And, we'll take that when we come up for final adoption sometime early in 2023.
Excellent. I read in the newspaper that in the first 10 weeks of adult use retail sales, so that would be the time frame between, I think it was April 21st through the end of June, that there was $80 million in cannabis sales, which equated to about $4.6 million in tax revenue. Do those numbers sound accurate to you?
Yeah, they sound accurate to me. And, like the sales numbers, they show there's a lot of room for the market to grow. There's lots of business opportunity out there, including for ancillary businesses. The people that are constructing these huge processing facilities or constructing these huge cultivation facilities, there's a lot of opportunity out there in the cannabis space.
And, where is the money going? Is that something that you're a part of, or is that a separate part of government that's going to be dealing with that? And kind of to add on to that question, one thing that I know a lot of us are keeping our eye on, or what's going to happen following the release of the special master report in State versus Olenowski, and where tax revenue generated from these sales is going to go. I mean, is the CRC keeping an eye on what the Supreme Court's going to do? In other words, will money have to go towards DREs, drug recognition experts, should the New Jersey Supreme Court follow the recommendations of the special master?
Yeah, I'm not fully involved with where the money goes, but I know that there are statutory mandates of where the money needs to go. And one of them being involved in law enforcement to help, detect cannabis use or cannabis intoxication or impairment. So, the money is definitely going to go back into the impact zones. This is a social justice and equity, type of situation that we're in. The criminalization of cannabis is a social justice issue. And we're here as a commission to rectify that. We really stand on two pillars of equity and safety. We want to have an equitable market. We want to allow people that have been affected by the criminalization of marijuana to be able to get a license or to be able to be involved in ancillary businesses. And we also want to make sure this market's safe. We want to make sure minors aren't using cannabis. We want to make sure, everybody knows what they're getting when they get a product, that it's lab tested, that there's nothing that's going to harm you when you get these type of products.
You mentioned impact zones, and I looked into the definition of impact zones. Population of 120,000 or more, an area that ranks in the top 40% of municipalities in the state for small amount of marijuana possession arrests in the calendar year, a crime index total of 825 or higher, and high unemployment rate. Is the commission prioritizing the approval of applications based on impact zones? And basically, how is the CRC deciding who and what company gets a license this early in the game?
So we are certainly prioritizing applications. That's part of the process. And, if you go to our website, you'll be able to walk right through a step-by-step priority application thing. And, social equity businesses are really the first businesses that we look at, and they're created by the commission through regulation. You have folks that have been harmed by being arrested by, possession of marijuana charges that get priority status. And then you also have folks based upon their income threshold and where they live in economically disadvantaged areas that also may be able to get, a social equity business designation. They're the first priority. And then we also have impact zones that are another priority that are being reviewed. So we are prioritizing those applicants over others. And then you also have social equity businesses that are diversely owned. So we have women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses that are getting prioritized in the application process. What that means is they're getting reviewed first. Conditional applications are always getting reviewed over annual applications or standard business applications. And those folks that I just mentioned are first in line, and they've been reviewed first. So, we've been approving a lot of conditional applications and hope to get to some annuals here in the near future.
Have you been getting a lot of applications?
We have received over 1,200 applications to date, and we're continuing to review them. Since we opened up the market for adult use, that's about approximately 1,200, give or take a few more. That's how many applications we've received.
Is that for all three classes that are currently available for licensing, cultivator, manufacturer, retailer, or is that just retailer?
That is for all three license classes that we've received, plus testing laboratories. We've received several testing laboratory applications, and we've actually approved a few of those as well.
That's amazing. I mean, one of the things, and I had a great conversation with Bill Caruso, and we talked about the fact that if you look at the timeline, went to referendum, voters said yes, we want to have cannabis sales in the state of New Jersey, and then a lot of people thought, oh, hey, I'll be able to go buy marijuana in the store the next day. And it's really, when you think about it, quite amazing that this whole commission was put together, that these regulations were established, that how much has actually been done in such a short time frame.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was a lot of work. A lot of work went in behind the scenes from a lot of different people that are part of the staff at the commission, and Jeff Brown and Diana Wayne, our chair. They laid a lot of the foundation for a lot of that work. And we just put pen to paper and put our heads down and got some regulations out for those first three classes of licenses. We thought it was important for the market to have, some supply and some folks processing and some retail before we opened up those other classes where supply is needed for them to even be successful. So we prioritized three license classes for those reasons, so that we could have an established adult use market before we had other people get in for, wholesaling, distributing, or delivery licenses.
Yeah, and do you anticipate a lot of applications for these next three classes?
It's hard to tell at this time where the market will expand to. We're certainly looking forward to opening up those new three new classes of licenses, so that folks that are interested in getting into the other part of the cannabis market can get into the game and can start putting their business together.
The licensing fees, the application fees and licensing fees on the state level are not very high, and I can see on your site it's got them all laid out. One question that I had is that is, though, separate and apart from any fee that the municipality may charge, correct?
Yeah, they are. They're separate fees. The statute allows the municipality to set up its own licensing and fee structure. It gives them a lot of leeway. But yeah, we've kept the fees low, especially for micro businesses. Micro businesses, that category where you have a square foot limitation of 2,500 square feet for your business, and you also have a limitation on employees of 10. So it's a smaller business. So to try to prioritize smaller businesses and to be mindful of the fact that they're going to have less capital. They're going to need lower fees to be successful. So we were mindful of that as well.
The home rule concept, basically, that each municipality can decide for themselves whether or not they're going to have retail space in their town, is something that I spoke with Bill Caruso. One thing I didn't know that I was surprised to learn is that delivery, though, even those municipalities that opt out, delivery will still be permitted within their municipalities. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The law doesn't allow for a municipality to limit a delivery service from making a delivery in that town or driving through that town to make a delivery. Is
that set forth in CREMA?
That is.
Okay. All right. What are some of the things that you guys are working through now, other than the getting ready to accept license applications for wholesaler, distributor, and delivery? Anything else on the forefront that you want to share with us?
Yeah, well, right now, as I stated earlier, my office is really working on these new set of regulations that contain a lot of different things. They contain those new license types. They contain different provisions on advertising and things like that. So folks, are encouraged to go and make comment so that, they know what the regulations are going to look like when we finally adopt them. we're going to take the feedback and we're going to utilize that feedback. My office is just also working with asking these questions that come up, right? This is a new space. This is a new business area, and community outreach and being engaged and with the public and making sure that they understand what we actually do is important. So, we regulate the regulated space. We don't, unfortunately, have law enforcement powers, so we cannot be involved in, unregulated marijuana. We don't shut down businesses. We can't do that. All we can do is regulate the regulated market, and that's what we're going to make sure is safe and equitable.
How often does the CRC meet, and are those meetings public?
Yeah, the CRC generally issues its annual meeting schedule at the end of the year, so in December of each year, and they meet once a month, generally meet once a month. And then there are special meetings and other meetings that are called to order by the chair. The meeting schedule is always set by the chair of the commission, just like the agenda would be set by the commission chair.
Got it. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get to be the chief counsel of the CRC?
It's just a little bit of luck and being in the right place at the right time. I started my career as a law clerk in Gloucester County in the civil division. After that, I moved into the AG's office, and I spent several years as a line deputy in the tort litigation section for the Division of Law, where we defended New Jersey Transit or other state entities for, injury-related claims. Saw an opportunity to sort of expand my experience and my resume to move into the administrative law area, and went to an administrative law section representing the Department of Health and Department of Human Services. Opportunity to become a manager supervisor in that section came up. Ended up being an assistant section chief for the Health and Human Services section in the Division of Law. COVID-19 pandemic hit, so I was involved with the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services, kind of guiding them through all the legal issues that arose from the pandemic. So after that, the opportunity just arose to move over and be chief counsel of the commission, and here we are today.
Here we are. The rest is history, right?
That's it.
So do you actually yourself write these regulations in conjunction with the other folks on the CRC?
It's a collaborative effort. I have a regulatory officer and a deputy counsel in my office that are, tasked with really helping out and assisting with that. I'm also involved in drafting. We have other staff members involved in drafting. It's kind of a really a team effort. And we all put our heads together to get the policy right, to get the rules right, to make sure we're complying with the law.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you really don't have any power over unregulated sales. How and are you involved in making sure that the folks that are granted these licenses in these various classes comply with the ongoing regulations? Are you involved in that?
We have a director of compliance who was a deputy counsel for me before he became that and went into that role, Paul Urbish, who was our director of compliance and investigations. His team has folks that are really hands-on and out in the field. We have compliance folks that are out in the field checking in on, retail shops, cultivation locations, manufacturing locations, and just, unannounced checks to make sure they're complying with the regulations, because, we really do want a safe market out there. And in order to do that, you have to have people that are, ensuring that folks are complying with the regulations. So we do have an investigations and compliance team that is really hands-on and out in the field doing that work.
Are you also involved with the medical marijuana locations and making sure? I saw that there's no more sales tax, and are you guys involved in regulating those entities as well?
Yeah, we are involved, and patients are one of our top priorities at the commission. We're certainly involved in ensuring that they have access to the products that they need, and also access to safe products. So we definitely have a customer service unit that is there and available for our patients to field questions to make sure that our medical cannabis program is running properly. But yeah, we are certainly involved and engaged with the patient community, and we want to make sure that the patients have what they need.
It seems to me that the regulations give priority to just that, correct?
Yeah, the regulations give, priority access, and also, when we opened up the adult use market to medical operators, that's all we had in the state. Right now, we're former medical operators that are now expanded into the adult use program. We opened that up and made sure that they had adequate patient access and adequate supply. We wanted to make sure that they had a supply, enough supply on hand in case patients needed it. We didn't want them to run out of supply when adult use sales turned on, so that patients couldn't have access to their medicine. So we made sure adequate supply, adequate canopy was available so that patients still had access to their medicine.
What about from a geographical standpoint? Is the CRC making sure that, in other words, you don't have all just retail businesses in the north or in the south, or do you try to make sure that you're granting licenses in a way that will enable, most counties to have these different businesses?
We're certainly keeping track of that on the adult use side of things, but we're more concerned about the patient side of things and making sure that, licenses are, spread out across the state so that patients aren't having those long trips to go get their medicine. Definitely more concerned about the patients than we are with the adult use. As you know, there's a lot of municipalities that opted out of having adult use retail locations or any type of cannabis business located in their jurisdiction. So we can't really, we can't really tell that municipality that they have to have that type of business. So if they're saying they can't have it, it's hard under the adult use to really regionalize things. We're certainly keeping an eye on it, though.
Once a municipality opts out, are they able to kind of change their vote and opt back in, or how does that work?
My understanding of the law, and I haven't actually looked at this piece for municipalities in quite some time, and would honestly defer to the municipalities and their general counsel on this. But my understanding is that they can opt back in at any time. Okay,
good to know. I'm one thing I'm a little bit curious about is the cultivators. I'm from Cumberland County. I'm originally from Bridgeton, and there's a lot of farms down there. And I was just curious what types of individuals are applying for the cultivator licenses. Do you see, farmers that have perhaps wanted to change their the type of product that they are growing, switch over and apply to be cannabis cultivators? Another reason I ask that is because, obviously Cumberland County, South Jersey, a lot of farmland. I've talked to folks, actually have a different podcast called the Bridgeton Beacon where I talk to folks in my hometown about, things that are happening and people that are doing different things. And we did a little series in that podcast on agriculture. And I was just curious who are applying and receiving licenses on the Class 1 cultivator class.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the CREAM Act says that, application materials and information are not subject to public record. They're not a public record. They're not subject to OPA or the common law right of access. But I could tell you that, you can't have a cannabis business on farmland that's assessed for farmland tax purposes, right?
Okay.
The law clearly says that. So that might be a hang up for some of the farmers. Mm-hmm. I don't know that for sure, but I know that the law does say that. Got it.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Okay, good to know. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. We're going to definitely keep our eye on what the CRC is doing. Once again, I think that the website is really amazing, very user-friendly. I encourage everybody to check it out. It really is very self-explanatory. And I've talked to, I'm not a cannabis lawyer, but I've talked to different cannabis lawyers who say that, if anybody calls them and says, hey, can you help me apply for a license, that many of these attorneys are just, kind of referring them right to your website. It's that user-friendly. You don't need an attorney to go through that application process. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, there's step-by-step guides. There's a lot of videos. Our Office of Diversity and Inclusion Director, Wesley McWhite, has put out a video specifically explaining how to do these types of applications, what you need to put in with your application to qualify as a social equity business. So there is so much information available, and I would encourage all applicants and attorneys to just take a look at the website, but when you have a question, because that question is likely answered on our website. What's the turnaround time, generally speaking, if you're able to answer that question on the application process? Yeah, it's hard to say, what the turnaround is, generally speaking. Like, it's getting quicker, obviously, than it was in the beginning, because we did have an initial influx of just everybody applying. Once you open up the portal and the application portal with these 3 license types, we saw thousands, we've seen 1,200, but we were seeing hundreds, a day in the beginning of it. So, these all need to be reviewed. We're moving as fast as we possibly can. It is certainly a priority to get these licenses reviewed and get people licensed. So we're moving it quick, and hoping that time gets quicker as we move forward.
And do you have a team of people that's their job is to review these applications? Is that something you're able to share with us, or?
We have a licensing unit. We have a director of we have a director of licensing, and we have folks employed under that director that are assigned to review licenses. And obviously, when legal questions or concerns come up, my office is involved in answering those questions. So yeah, we do have a team that's reviewing those licenses.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like there has been quite a bit of work done by the CRC and quite a bit to do, and all head by you as chief counsel. So once again, thank you for joining us today. And I'd like to stay in touch. Maybe we could have another conversation in the spring, assuming that the other 3 classes are out, and maybe we could just follow up on that when the wholesaler, distributor, and delivery licenses become available, and touch base and see what's new.
That sounds great, and thanks for having me today. It was. I hope everybody enjoys it. And please go check out the website if you have a question.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
This podcast is not a source of legal advice. No 2 legal cases are the same. Contact an attorney if you require legal assistance. The best way to follow, subscribe, rate, or message the show is to visit njcriminalpodcast.com.